What's up? Another Patreon podcast, a podcast with my Patreon supporters. If you join me on Patreon, if you support the show, even for as little as $1, I will let you get the Zoom link and participate in these. And you can hang out as long as you want, say as little or as much as you want. And it's a little perk, and it's a great way of connecting with the listeners, and the listeners connecting with each other. So I got a couple people joining us. Let's let them in. Here we go. Let's see who joins us on this Patreon podcast. Man, Ronnie, what's up, bud?
What's up, man?
How's everything? How late is it there?
It's 11 p.m.
11 p.m. How's life going with the family, work? I mean, what's any updates?
Not much. I have been looking for a few places. It gets weird when they ask, "Why did you get canned from the last place?" And you tell them, "Because I'm not going to stand by and doing this bullshit." So they start asking questions like, "So if you say no to that, how much do you say no to, and how much can we tell you to do?" And you have to try to convince them that I can work, but I'm not going to go along with the COVID restrictions. So they usually just say, "Well, we'll think about it," and you don't hear from them again. So
is it mandatory there? Like, do you have to, or can businesses decide to opt out, or
yeah, they can do whatever they want. So the business, they make it mandatory for themselves because they think they work the masks. So, and they are talking about making it mandatory for health workers to take the vaccine, or they can't be working. But they have to change the law as always when they do stuff like that, so it takes a while. And yeah,
that's so yeah, because in the US, I'm sure you're constantly keeping up with what's going on in our country, but yeah, it's mandatory for any business who has more than 100 employees, and then mandatory for, I think, government employees. So those are the people that right now are mandated to get vaccinated. But like, I work for a small business, so we kind of can do what we want, and we don't have to obviously get vaccinated. But there's a freeze on it right now because there's been so much pushback, and I think, one, there's been a lot of pushback, and two, there's a court that actually decided that it was unconstitutional, or however they worded it, but decided to freeze the Biden mandates for people. I mean, now that it seems like they're openly discussing other alternative treatments, it doesn't, like before, when they were still suppressing all the other treatments and people thought that the vaccine was the only way of getting back to normal or to stop the so-called pandemic. But now, with the fact that people are openly talking about having success with other treatments, and it seems to be much more acceptable to discuss those things, and people are aware of those other treatments, like, how can you mandate one specific type of treatment when there's other options? It doesn't make any sense. And it still boggles my mind on a daily basis when you see parents that can't wait to get their kids vaccinated, can't wait to. And I don't know, like, I'd love to sit some of them down and see, like, what's your thinking? Is it because you're afraid? Is it because you honestly have been brainwashed by the propaganda? Like, what is it that, I mean, what statistics are you looking at? Because even if you look at the mainstream statistics, kids have, like, literally no chance of dying from this, basically. So it's like, what's causing people to do this? It's wild. I mean, it really is wild that so much information that we were talking about for the last 2 years now almost has come out and become, obviously, we've been exposed to be right about a lot of this stuff because they couldn't suppress the truth forever. And yet, like, what information are you looking at? Like, how can you look at Dr. Fauci and still think he's telling the truth and he's an honest person. How can you look at the statistics and all the big pharma propaganda and all the adverse reactions and everything that's going on all over the world, all the pushback by athletes, all the pushback by unions, all like, and still think like, oh, it's just basically a virus and we're just trying to protect people? No, there's much more going on.
The problem there, Rick, is people isn't looking. So if you look, you can't come to the conclusion it's okay, but people are not looking. We have a new friend, not Susan here, but whatever. The guy that's very smart and speaks about racial issues, Jordan Peterson. He has just found out the COVID is bullshit and the Green New Deal is also bullshit. So that will be fun to see how he reacts in the future.
Oh, is he talking about
it?
Yeah,
he was on Ruben. I listened to him today. So he was invited to some sustainable development group something. So to learn, he read 200 books about climate change. And now he's like, oh, CO2 is good for us and we can't do shit. And the only way we can make electricity to everybody, we need to use nuclear power. So when a smart guy like that come to that conclusion, we might get some change because he's has a big mouth and a large platform.
That
so
and
hopefully,
and he doesn't. He's not really looked at as a political person. You know, he has a philosophy and he has perspectives on the world, but he seems like somebody who's open to look at all sides of a debate. And I mean, even if you disagree with him, he usually has pretty good explanations on his perspectives, which you have to respect. And he, when you look at the carnivore diet, I mean, that was the same thing with the carnivore diet. He was a big reason why people took it more seriously, because it's like, okay, well, this guy had a history of issues. He's not a nutritionist. He's not an athlete that maybe is more tribalistic in regards to which diet they want to defend and which one you want to bash. He was just a person who had a personal experience, and his daughter had a very similar personal experience in regards to helping their health. And so, yeah, I mean, with having somebody like him ask these questions, and same thing with Rogan. I mean, don't you think that Rogan, if you've been, honestly, I didn't listen to Rogan for a while because during the beginning of the pandemic, it was like, there's these little hints from time to time where it's like, okay, I think his perspective's changing a little bit. And him leaving California was kind of a tell in regards to what was going on in his head and thinking that like California's going too far. But you saw, I had a little bit of hope that if he is as honest and open-minded as I think he is, even though he's become much less conspiratorial as time went by. And I think a lot of that has to do with how big the platform is. It's like, it's so big that, and he's had so many like serious people on, and it has such a effect on things that he wants to kind of stay away from the conspiratorial things a little bit. Because if you go back to his really early stuff, I mean, he would talk about everything and anything from like fake moon landing to, you know, all MK Ultra, all the basic stuff. And now it's like he barely ever talks about those topics. He doesn't really talk too much about the JFK assassination or whatever. I mean, it seems like he's gotten a little bit.
He put on Instagram the bullet that supposedly went in through JFK and out in the, not the driver, the guy sitting next to the driver, or something like that.
Yeah, the other politician that was in the car.
Yeah. So he put that this bullet did not go through. The magic bullet theory is bullshit. And I also listened, he had Shapiro on, and he even said there when they talked about the vaccines, it's not a vaccine, it's a gene therapy. So he's getting there.
He's getting there, but I'm like, the only thing about that part of, because I heard him say that, and I've heard him say that a few times. So I like the fact that him thinking or him knowing that it's gene therapy helps his skepticism into the vaccine. But the one thing that I'm a little skeptical about in regards to his perspective on the whole thing is he still seems to draw a line between other vaccines and these vaccines. So it's like he realizes these could do harm, but he seems to still think that like it's because it's a mRNA vaccine, a messenger RNA vaccine, and not because it's just a vaccine. Like he still has this perspective that the other vaccines are safe and effective. And it's like I'm hoping that he realizes like the same way that the vaccine propaganda has convinced everybody about this vaccine that it's safe and effective, and if you question it, they bash you, so you end up self-censoring because God forbid you say anything somewhat negative about vaccines, they're going to label you as anti-vaxxer. I hope he realizes that's been going on for a long time. This isn't new with the mRNA vaccine. Prior to 2020, anybody who said anything about vaccines, like, hey, there are some people who have adverse reactions. Hey, there are some deaths due to being vaccinated. Like, and if you said that out loud, you would get bashed as an anti-vaxxer. So this isn't new. Like this whole script, the way things work, and the power of big pharma and the pro-vaccine movement and pro-vaccine industry, he's just getting a taste of it now. But they were doing it to Robert Kennedy before. They were doing it to Del Bigtree before. They're doing it to a lot of people, just calling them anti-vax. So it just, to me, it boggles my mind that he doesn't see the correlation of, okay, well, the same, maybe the way that they're trying to fool everybody into believing that this vaccine can help. Maybe we've all been tricked, so what's up? We almost got almost all foreigner podcast right now.
Yeah. And the Susan, we can hear you breathing. I think it's your mic at least.
Oh, am I not muted?
No, it's okay.
No.
Do you want to jump in, Susan? You don't have to put on the video. You can just participate by talking if you would like. Where are you calling from?
Pennsylvania.
Oh, nice. So East Coast, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, I'm about an hour north of Philadelphia.
Oh, nice. How's everything there?
It's some places you wouldn't know there was anything going on, and other places are all masked up and scared. So it's
it's funny.
It's a little bit of everything.
I live in some of you guys know, because if you listen to the show, I live in a town called Ludlow, which has a lot of Polish and Portuguese immigrants. Well, most of the Portuguese people here, like my parents, they don't watch the news because they don't understand a whole lot of English. So most of the news that they watch is international news. Like they watch RTP, which is a Portuguese station, and Seek, I think, is the other popular one. And so once the mask mandates are gone, then nobody wears masks because they're not like watching the propaganda. Like they're good old-fashioned people. So like if there's a mandate, they'll wear it, and once there's not a mandate, they won't wear it because they're not constantly being fed the numbers and how scary things are and all this stuff. So it's almost like if everybody just shut off their TV and stop watching the news and just said, hey, how about you just take a look around? Like, do you feel like you need a mask? Do you feel like we're in a pandemic? Life has been back to normal. Things have been back to normal. Things have been, I mean, for the most part, where I live, people are going to the gym. People are going to the mall. People are going, like, why are we still talking about numbers? Why are we still talking about cases? This reminds me of like the war on drugs or the war on terror. Like now it's the war on Corona. And it's like, we're just going to keep spending money and keep just talking about it. Like it's a battle that can be won. And then after it's all said and done, we're just going to look back and be like, wow, that was a complete fuck up. We just spent a bunch of money, ruined lives, and got nothing accomplished. There wasn't really anything that we should be focused this much finances and resources on. But yeah, so it's wow. We live in crazy times, but I feel like things are trending in the right direction. I want to be optimistic, and I feel like because of all the pushback, like how much longer can they keep trying to force feed? Oh, we got another one. How much longer can they constantly be force feeding us this bullshit before eventually everybody's like, I'm just over it. Like, I just want to move on. You know, I mean, we've had some of the lowest approval ratings for our vice president and Sleepy Joe Biden. And it just, you know, I'm like, nobody likes him. Nobody likes what's going on. And that was one of the reasons why people voted for him. They created
About the approval ratings. So Jordan Peterson said he went to a senior advisor in Toronto and asked, why are they doing lockdowns? And he said straight out, we look at the polls and the polls say people are afraid and they want to be locked down. So they're basically just seeing, I get elected if I do this, I get kicked out if I do that. And they say they follow zero science. It's all about the polls. So maybe it takes a few months still before the people start to come back and say no when the pollsters calls. Do you want to be in lockdown? Maybe. I don't know.
But can anyone trust the polls anymore?
No, but the political guys, I guess.
Who looks at these? I mean, who gets asked these questions anyways? I've never once participated in a poll ever. Like, have you guys?
Yeah,
I mean,
actually, the state news called me last week and asked me how I rated the news. They did not get a good score. I loved it every minute. And I was like, are you reading the news? Yes, every day. What do you think about it? On a scale to 1 to 10, 1. And how much do you trust them? 1. I just read them to see what the propaganda is. And the guy was like, yeah, you're not wrong, because he didn't work for them. He was hired like from another company. So he was thinking of us a bit funny. I liked it.
How many of you guys are worrying about transhumanism and just all the other issues that seem to be coming with 2020, like, you know, Meta, right? The new Facebook and the Internet of Things, and combining everything, and AI and virtual reality. Have you guys thought about these issues a little bit too?
Have you listened to Alison McDowell?
No, I haven't. Who's that?
She is, so you can probably get some good interview. Greg Carlwood interviewed her a few times. She does a blog called Wrench in the Gears, and that's what she talks about. She's been talking about it for years. She's right outside of Philadelphia. Actually, she's right in Philadelphia. And yeah, and she did I went up to Utica, New York a couple of months ago to see her speak with Tom Cowan and Andrew Kaufman. So they did kind of a thing together.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I feel like I definitely have heard Wrench in the Gears. Like somebody has referenced it, or maybe I've even heard that interview with her, and now, and I just don't remember her name. But I'm actually having Aaron Franz. He did oh my god, I wish I remember his documentary, but he was on years ago. I think I was in like single digit, or not single digits, maybe double digit episodes, and he did Age of Transition, I think was the name of the book, or he has a book and he has a documentary. It might be Age of Transition, one of the two. And he's been talking about this forever, but it seemed like so far ahead of us that I'm like, yeah, like this is, I can see it happening. Like, and I meant like I could see it from a distance. Now I'm like, now I literally can see it happening, because it's just like, you know, the whole Meta thing, the whole Facebook thing, it's like, it's such baby steps that people don't realize what's going on or where that road leads. It's like, okay, like, hey, that's way far down the road. Yeah, I see it as a possibility, but like, that's not something I'm really worried about. And it's like, we just slowly keep tiptoeing in that direction. And I wonder if the COVID thing is going to be helpful in regards to that, because the people who are still wearing masks are and the people who are first in line to get their kids vaccinated or to get the boosters. What if that's also going to be a way of getting people to think this reality is so scary, I'd be much safer if I just stay at home, put on some, you know, a headset and live in some virtual reality, because there's viruses everywhere and I'm so afraid, and, you know, and government will just give me my universal basic income and I can just stay at home and stay connected to a virtual reality. And I'm curious. I want to believe that there's something human that's going to be missing that won't be able to be recreated, but I'm not that optimistic because you see with our phones, right? Like people are addicted to their phones. They can't put it down. How different would it be to have a headset? Like if you have something even more realistic and something that had maybe other avatars of other people, so you felt like you were talking to other people or hanging out, like why couldn't it be just as addictive, you know? And if everybody's living in that realm, then you wouldn't feel like you're missing out on anything. Like everybody's there. It's just, it's scary to think about. It really is.
I think it's the children, Ricky, that are going to get sort of absolutely straight into this world. I think some of us that are sort of, you know, born in the early 80s or whenever, we're sort of probably a bit able to sort of stay organic. But I think if you're being raised now, I mean, I don't know how they sort of avoid having a sort of an original, you know, sort of outlook on life like we once had. So that'll be the challenge. But yeah, down here in Australia, I mean, I think the whole pandemic's just taught us to sort of get offline as best as we can and as much as we can. But I think, you know, the next generation down, they're totally different where everything's online, isn't it?
Now in Australia, how are you near protests? Are you, because I know there's certain parts of Australia that are actually not as bad as others, and
yeah, I mean it's an extremely bizarre situation because it is like there's two realities, as everyone's been saying. There's no different. Where I am, I'm a little bit outside of Sydney, so probably like an hour outside. So been pretty good here, and sort of not much sort of activity and not much sort of police presence or anything like that. But then if you go down to Melbourne, obviously that's where they've had some extreme sort of activity. But yeah, I guess it's calmed down now, but it's more just they're still pushing very hard to get, you know, sort of the sort of treatment in as many people as they can, and just sort of the way it's being ticked off for the younger categories is pretty mind-blowing. But yeah, in terms of general well-being and sort of life quality, yeah, where I'm, it's not too much different. And I think again, it's just how you're sort of perceiving what you're seeing on TV, or if you're just avoiding the whole thing and you don't even know what the hell they're, you know, changing on a daily basis in terms of their regulations, which is what it was like for me for a while, because you just avoid it.
I think you made a really good point too about the younger generations in regards to if you're our age or older, you could kind of see the transition between the analog world to the digital world. But you get people who are basically just born into this world. This is normal to them. Like not having privacy is completely normal and acceptable. Having all your information online is completely normal. A world with social media and all this stuff, I mean, completely normal. And it's like, how do you convince them that something's being done to them, that like you should be upset, and it's like this isn't normal when it is normal to them, you know? It just it's wild, you know. I know Ronnie was talking about Ben Shapiro. He was when he was on the Rogan podcast recently, he brought up that he's not going to let his kids have a smartphone till like they're 17 or something like that, or go on the internet till they're like in their teens. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, my kids are 6 and 5, and I mean, they don't have phones, but they play with my phone all the time. And I'm like, what am I doing? You know, like it makes you kind of rethink things. You like to believe you're observing what they're doing and you have some control over it, but who knows, man? I mean, you click on one wrong video and you might scar them for life. You know, who knows what they're watching? As a child, it doesn't take much for one little thing to traumatize you, and you never know.
And it's also a weird thing because my boy, he's turning 4 here next month. He's starting to speak English, and that's from YouTube. So it's a good thing, but also that means he has seen too much YouTube. So so that's not good for me. But it's funny when he was playing and he played with a police car and he was like, police stop, and stuff like that, some phrases in English, and he should definitely not be speaking English because he doesn't hear it anywhere else than in the YouTube videos. So it's a good thing and a bad thing. Depends what they're watching, I guess. Because sometimes they have some child video on, and you hear vaccines, vaccines, and look, what the fuck is going on? And they have some video of vaccine dancing puppets. I'm like, holy shit. Obviously turning it off, but yeah.
But I think again, kids are just going to get outside the house again. I mean, it's been good seeing some of your Instagram posts, Ricky. Good to see your kid. Your boy's a big soccer man, and sort of been hitting festivals and carnivals or whatever you're doing over the summer over there. So yeah, I mean, well, we were in the entirely opposite space. So I think again, it's just good to look outside your local space occasionally to see that there is normality around. But yeah, I'm just surprised, and I guess this is the way society's gone, that there's not more kids out on the streets playing, and we all know that why that is. But yeah, it must be a pretty interesting way to grow up these days if you're not out on the streets all day wreaking havoc.
Well, I remember, and I'm sure you guys all remember, like driving down the street, driving by parks, and in Massachusetts, they took down all the basketball hoops. So there was no rims on any hoops. There's no kids outside. There was nothing. And I remember just driving around town and just thinking like, holy fuck, when am I going to like drive down the street and just see kids outside again? When am I going to see them? So it's like now that people are outside and they're comfortable, we're trying to do as much as possible, because I mean, damn, there's some things we took for granted. Look at restaurants, for example. My wife's been in the restaurant business as long as I've known her, and most for her life. And you think like, okay, it's just about being lazy and maybe not wanting to cook, and that's why you go out to eat. But it's more than that. It's a social event. You're around people, and I think there's energy when you're in a room with other people. Like if you're at a concert and everybody's cheering, or you're at a game, a sporting event, and everybody's kind of just excited, and the energy in the room is contagious, and the excitement in the room. And I don't want to take any of that shit for granted, and restaurants was one of those things where everybody was dying to go out to eat. We're like, once like the first restaurant opened, we didn't care that we had to wait in line. We didn't care that, whatever we had to do, like we could not wait to just go out and eat. And it wasn't just because, like I said, the food, because we're all home long enough where we could have learned to cook whatever our favorite meal was, but it was because we just wanted to. Oh, did I get a message from somebody? We just wanted to
It's the link.
Oh, it's a link. We just wanted to go out and be around people. I think that's one of the reasons why people love going out to bars and going to restaurants. It's you're around people. Everybody's there for mostly the same reason, because they're trying to get away from work. You're trying to get away from stresses. And it was just something that was taken away from people. And it was a way of therapy. My wife, I talk about it all the time with my wife about, I'm like, how many, I'm like, do you know how many people you're their therapist? Like, and she's like, oh, I know. She's like, sometimes I'm too busy to listen to their stories, and they just want somebody to listen. They want to tell them about their day, or some crap that they're going through. And so yeah, I mean, it's a place where people get stuff off their chest and talk to others, and they loosen up because they're having a drink. And I know, don't get me wrong, I know alcohol has ruined many people's lives, and many drugs, different drugs have. But I've had nothing but positive, experiences with alcohol. And I know, like I went to a wedding in Napa. It was the only time I've ever been to China, was for this Napa Valley wedding. And it was between one of my wife's close childhood friends and this Australian. They met in New York. He was an investor or something like that. And they met in the city, and his name's Scott, super nice dude. And it was so much fun hanging out with the Aussies at the wedding and talking about philosophy, talking about soccer, talking about all these things. And they like to drink. I mean, it's so European, like they laugh, they have songs, and it was such a blast. And I'm just like, oh, this is awesome, and for, people need that. I mean, there's a reason why I think people still have some traditions, like going to church, or making wine, or making whatever, brewing whatever you brew. Like all these things have something in common. It brings people together. It's a reason to gather. It's a reason to laugh. It's a reason to enjoy company. And I'm just listening to some. We're getting a thunderstorm right now, so hopefully I don't lose power. But I think that it's so important. The psychological effects of 2020, and to me, like I just don't even think people could quantify it. And when people keep talking about in America, 700,000 people died of the COVID, it's like, how many kids got beat up because of the lockdowns? How many people lost their businesses and now are depressed, alcoholics, child abuse, divorces, like all the stresses that it put on people. I'm like, how do you just ignore all that? Like, how do you pick and choose which issue is more important than the other? Like, how do you say that if I can stay home, I can save one life, but locking people down, like the epidemic of suicides and drug abuse and all these other things, like those aren't like important. Those aren't something that we should be concerned about. If the solution is equally as bad as the problem you're trying to fix, then maybe we should reconsider all this stuff. So
I think what I've discovered down here, Ricky, is that people have sort of questioned their purpose when they, you observe them sitting around for months and months on end, and a lot of that activity was their whole purpose outside of just working. And then those of us that chose to, sort of continue just doing our thing, that's not necessarily our purpose, but I think, just the people that sat there just watching Netflix and, sort of just hanging in there waiting for the sun to come back out, and now realizing, or more so realizing that, perhaps this is, that wasn't the path to go down, but just really understanding, what the hell life is about when you're sitting at home for such a long time. It's opened it up for a few people to think a bit more about it, I think.
Without a doubt. Figs, your microphone working?
Yep. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
All right, cool. Sorry I'm late. Yeah, I know I was a little bit quiet at first, so appreciate that. But you guys, it's definitely, you make a good point. As sort of, I don't want to say a byproduct, but just, another sort of symptom of the lockdown is that, it's affected a lot of different people, a lot of different ways. I have an apartment. One of my tenants is actually a nurse, and I stopped by the other day and just chit-chatted with her a little while, and she was actually having a like a webinar with it was work related, and it was all about opioids. And the reason why they were talking about that is because what she's seeing now in the hospital is basically, everyone is either having an opioid, it's ODs and COVID is what she's saying. It's like every time, most of the cases that she's seeing in the hospital, not just, cases is probably a bad word, but most of the hospital visits that she's seeing now is overdoses, and she says, COVID and the overdoses. I can definitely understand that. If there's people that were, once struggling with addiction, now they're, I know a lot of people have had, certain things sort of taken away from them, and now, relapse is definitely a real thing. Luckily, it's not too many people that I know personally have been affected in that sense as a result of the the lockdowns, but it's definitely a problem, a huge problem. People are probably, going through recovery and doing really well for themselves, and they started businesses, and they started families and whatnot, and then all of a sudden, everything just kind of sort of crumbles down, and now they sort of go back down that road, and it sucks too, because sometimes these folks get, they actually do the really, really hard work that it takes to get clean and get over those hurdles. And then they sort of, get back into those old habits, and they think that they can sort of pick up right where they left off, and they can't, and they usually make a mistake and overdose. And that's what she says she's seeing a lot of right now. So that's 100% real. That's very real. And it's like that's all that other collateral damage. What's that?
Do you think the overdose comes from when you have been doing like a certain amount, you stop, and when you go back, you go to the same amount you did like years ago?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I have a couple friends, not a lot, but a couple friends that sort of struggled with addiction in their past, and they, they've definitely told me stories of other acquaintances, certain people that we knew a long, long time ago, or someone that we went to school with, an acquaintance or something like that. And that's 100% right. They haven't done these things in a really, really long time, years and years. They haven't done these things, and so I guess there's a tolerance that sort of comes along with having that sort of experience, and then they end up jumping right back into it, and then doing too much, and they end up overdosing on one opioid or another. They're all the same to me, to be honest. But yeah, that's a real thing, and there's just a lot of collateral damage as a result of these lockdowns, and you don't hear about it enough. You don't hear about it, at least not on the news. I mean, it's just it's a huge problem, and I'm really curious to know what the statistics are in that direction. What like how many people are actually affected by that? They have no problem telling you what about cases and about COVID deaths, but they're not telling you about overdoses. They don't see you don't see that plastered all over mainstream media. I think it definitely should be, but there's a reason why it's not.
Yeah, I think it's a study that has been done, the amount of collateral damage from the lockdowns, like just I think deaths and overdoses and all these other things that were indirectly because of the lockdown or directly because of the lockdown. And that's not, like you said, that's not something that's discussed. That's not something people want to hear. My last podcast that I uploaded, it's not the last one that I've done, because I have two that I have to try to get out soon, but with the attorney Justin McCarthy and Brian Festa. One thing that Justin, I've had a few conversations with Justin, and he says, and it's so true, it's not about any of this information anymore. Like, there's so much information defending our perspective that if somebody still doesn't see it, it's because they don't want to see it. That it was never about science anyways. It wasn't about any of this stuff. It's either people that are afraid who, oh, did you guys hear that? Did the microphone pick that up? It was too loud.
I'm getting it here too.
And are you where are you located, Figs?
I'm not too far from you. I'm
just in case somebody's listening, you don't have to give you don't have to give your address.
Yeah. I'm only a few towns over. I'm actually I live way out in the boonies, in a really, really super old house. And when we get weather like this, we lose power a lot. So if you lose me, it's definitely because of the storm.
Okay, great. Not because somebody's trying to take you out or anything.
Right.
Yeah, it's what the hell was I talking about?
How people just want to sort of ignore the information. I think you're absolutely right. People that see, or at least when they're faced with the information, that is sort of more or less defending our viewpoint about everything that's going on. They just want to look away. And I think it's mostly because it's uncomfortable. I think the truth is actually scarier than what their cell phones and their TV is actually feeding them. I mean, I know people personally, somebody that I care about a lot, that actually got these jabs, ended up in the hospital pretty much immediately after, and is in like complete denial that a lot of the stuff that happened to them is because of the shots. Like it's that bad. And I think these things are really related to each other, whether it's the information that they don't want to look away from, or it's denial in one facet or another. It's a lot of these folks are in denial. And yeah, this dude ended up in a hospital for a while, and still having some issues and side effects after that. But try to mention that it was related to the injections. Forget it. Never mind. There's just no way. Of course not. There's no way. It's.
I heard Kim.
It's sad.
If she was on, she was with Ryan from Last American Vagabond, and Kim Iverson. I follow her from time to time. She's interesting. She's the one who was on the Hill, the Rising. She was one of the hosts now after the other original host left and started Breaking Points, and she's there from time to time, and I'm like, oh, I like her. Let me see what she's saying, and she would push back against the mainstream narrative on there. And when she was on Last American Vagabond, she was saying this, and it's so true, because it's something I've been thinking about. I'm like, I wonder if anybody else is having the same type of questions, and it's similar to what you said in regards to how many people are in such denial. That she talked about how she would get in a debate with somebody about how the vaccines are harming people or whatever, and then they're like, no, I had the vaccine, I'm fine. And then like 3 conversations later, people are like, I've had this splitting headache, just won't go away, or my period is just so abnormal. Like, and they're like, you don't think any of this is related? Like, you're in such a denial that you're having these health issues and concerns, and you think it's not related at all. And it's similar to all these athletes. Like, some of you guys who watch soccer or international sports, Sergio Aguero, the Barcelona, well, used to play for Man City, now plays in Spain. Healthy as a horse, completely fine. Now there's conversations of him retiring. It just boggles my mind. There's an Atlanta Hawks player who got the vaccine, who's never felt right again, younger player. He's a gamer, and I think during one of his gaming streaming, one of the times he was streaming while he was gaming, he talked about how they want to keep it hush hush. They don't want him to publicly talk about it, but it was after the vaccine that he hasn't felt right, and now he can't get clear to play. There's all these athletes just like dropping dead in the. Even Christian Eriksen, who plays for Denmark, that whole, I watched that live. It blew my mind. Like, I'm not supposed to be able to see somebody have like die right right on the field like this. This is crazy. And it was amazing that they got his heart going and all this stuff. If some of you guys don't remember, Denmark was playing and he literally just passed out. And then there's all these rumors about, like, okay, was he vaccinated? Was he not vaccinated? And I never really got a for sure answer. I've heard people say both, but I don't think it's coincidental that all these athletes, which are most likely vaccinated, because if you're a elite athlete, your whole life revolves around that sport. You eat, breathe that sport. You train that sport. You watch that sport. You talk about that sport. You're not that. Most of you guys aren't that informed in regards to the history of vaccines or big pharma or all these other things. And so most of them probably just said, hey, I don't have to get tested if I get vaccinated. Sure, why not? And so most of them got pressure to get vaccinated. And now you're seeing all these healthy athletes. These professional athletes, they're the elite of elite athletes. These guys were all the best, players and best athlete in their high school, the best athlete in their college, best athletes, and for them to just spontaneously have heart conditions. And that seems to be the reoccurring theme. I don't know if you guys saw the little video of like just somebody put together a bunch of clips of athletes passing out or whatever. And what do you guys think about that? Do you think it's just maybe this happens more than we maybe were aware of before? And if you gathered all these stories together, it would seem, like it's happened before, or is it really exclusively happening now and it seems unusual?
I think it's all recent. As a result of the mandates, a lot of these top athletes have worked for this for so long, have worked to be on these teams, to be this level of athlete, and they don't want to give it up. So of course when the boss or the people that run your league or whatever tell you now you have to go get this jab, you don't want to give that up. You don't want to sacrifice all the years of training and hard work and all that stuff to just let it all go. So they go ahead and get these injections, and now I think you're seeing it a lot more. I actually downloaded it might be the same montage that you're talking about, a little clip, edited clip of all the reports that's been sort of accumulated. I posted it to my Facebook. I definitely want people to see that stuff. What's that?
How did that go? Facebook didn't take it down for misinformation or anything like that?
No, it didn't. They probably will eventually. To be honest, I don't really have a lot of Facebook followers. I can't stand social media. I've like for the longest time, I wasn't on Facebook or Instagram or nothing like that. I kind of despise social media. But as of lately, you know, it's sort of I think it's more important now to sort of, you know, fight fire with fire. So I'm, you know, I post stuff. You know, it's all about information these days. So I've been leveraging, you know, my social media accounts a lot more. Like if you looked at my Facebook, you can see it's really dry for years. I mean, Facebook had dust on it for years and years, but now, you know, with all the stuff going on, I definitely post more, and it's not like personal stuff. You're not going to see me like take a selfie and be like, hey, look at me, I'm out to, you know, I'm out doing this stuff. It's literally all just current events and stuff that's going on right now, stuff that you won't see on you know, on the news, and I don't really care if you know, the powers that be want to shut down my social media. I really don't care. So I'll post, you know, whatever. You know, if I think there's something good or useful for somebody to know, then I'll definitely throw that up there. But yeah, I put that up on my Facebook, and I, you know, I'm not convinced that it's something that's been going on forever. I mean, these people are like in their prime. They're like in peak physical condition. There's no reason why all these people should be having cardiac issues, heart issues.
I'm
You know what I'm
going to
saying?
play a bit devil's advocate here. I'm just watching NHL ice hockey, so I've seen some instances where people just collapse, and they are athletes, yes, but they are also injured a lot. So they are taking hard pills and
True.
training injured and getting worse and worse and worse. That said, it seems like it's amped up with these vaccines and it's more frequent. But then again, I don't see anything else than ice hockey, so I don't know.
Well, and it seems like it's specifically heart conditions, which obviously we know seems to be something that's correlated with the vaccine. There's that story that was going around in the US of those kids who went to Walgreens to get flu shots and accidentally got COVID shots, and then they end up in the hospital with heart issues. So so it's a real thing. I always try to be, you know, a little bit skeptical of all these montages, because I'm always like, well, because I saw Christian Eriksen in there and I'm like, well, I'm not sure anybody knows if he was vaccinated or not. So I'm like, maybe, you know, so I try to be a little skeptical. But again, what you're starting to see, and there's kids and people playing sports everywhere all the time, and there's so many kids playing sports and so many athletes. Like, could a freak incident happen, like where you have an elite athlete have a heart attack? Yeah, and probably something like that happen. Yeah, it does. But how common is it? And when it seems to be more common now, I think you do have to kind of ask questions. Have you guys been doing a good job balancing being deep into this and being upset probably, and getting information out there, and then saying like, hey, I also need to spend some time actually enjoying life, because that's kind of what I'm fighting for. So on one hand, like, we're fighting for the right to have the freedom to enjoy life, but on the other hand, if you spend too much time fighting for that right, you stop enjoying life, and then you get consumed with this stuff, which will have obviously a negative effect on you mentally and emotionally and stuff like that. Have you guys found that you have to kind of balance that and consciously kind of be aware of that?
Absolutely.
I'm definitely balls
Look,
deep,
a bit over the
way
hill.
too deep. I'm over the edge. I don't know. I
Right.
can't
Feel you.
get enough info, and
To see
yeah,
18 months.
yeah, it's. I laughed my ass off. A friend sent me a text a few weeks ago, and it was a meme. Just checking in on your conspiracy friend that has been balls deep for 2 years. How are you doing? So I was like, yeah, well, I'm okay. But yeah, it's
like
a rough
rubbing it
time.
in now. It feels like we're just rubbing it in. So I don't bother anymore. And if when I was still sending the occasional meme or the occasional statistic to friends and family, I'd always say, I'm not gloating or boasting, just so you're aware. But, now most people have sort of gone down that path. I just, let them be. And, some are sort of slowly admitting that maybe perhaps, it's not sort of panned out as the way they should. But, I think a lot of it is psychological now, unfortunately, in terms of how you're going to respond and react. And I guess that's where I just sort of let them be. But I think most of us did our bit, last year, and realized just gotta, as you said, enjoy what's around us.
I need to try that too. Have you guys, by the way, people around you that are very religious? Because when I speak to my family and friends that believe very much in God, they tell me that's your truth and that's not the only truth. And that's a thing you get from the Bible, because you can interpret whatever the word is. You can see like different stuff in the Bible, and I believe that and maybe not that.
Something my mum would say.
So they have some feeling that facts can be not facts, and that's a weird thing to handle. When you show them documents and they're like, yeah, that's your truth, that's not mine. I'm like, dude, it doesn't work like that. 2 plus
As
2
I say to my
is
parents,
not 5.
these people believe we went to the moon, and these people believe all sorts of things. So, I mean, that's the hardest category I've dealt with is that age bracket. And as I say to them, you guys did the right thing. I've got a lot of respect for you, but obviously wouldn't still be sort of annoying everyone with these conversations if it still wasn't conversation worthy. But that generation, I mean, what they sort of grew up to believe, and they're so balls deep, so to speak, and that just maybe people our age you can sort of pull them away a bit, and they're sort of street smart enough to just see that what's happening. But that generation, I think that they're just so committed, it really takes a independent soul to sort of move past that now and admit that this has all been pretty crazy.
I have a fun one though when when I talk to the religious guys. So then they say, I believe everything that's said in that book. Then I ask, now I haven't talked about it so long time, so I almost forget, but it's a guy he's walking in the Egypt somewhere or somewhere else, and he sees some UFO coming down, and he describes the flames and stuff like that. So I looked up that a few months ago and read exactly what it said, and I printed it out and I gave it to them, and they was like, yeah, maybe not that one. I was like, that's a fun one.
Well, we do kind of, in a way, we do kind of live in a post-truth world, because there's so much science, and then science that conflicts against that science, and science that conflicts. Like, you could almost find any information you want. So, like, even using the word fact, like, it's hard to use the word fact. Like, this is my perspective on the information I've been handed, and I understand that you probably can gather some information also, and it might seem factual. So to me, it's really hard. I mean, this COVID thing is one of the few things that I'd say, like, I have really strong opinions, and I think this is, I guess, truth, for lack of a better term. But even with that, you can find somebody who can do a really good job looking at all the research that only defends their perspective. And then you just go back and forth, like, here's my science, this is your science, this is my science, this is your science, and so it almost seems like it's post fact. Like, there's not, I don't know, was there ever a time where there's like something that everybody agreed was a fact? Like, it almost seems like it's almost like a illusion that we pretend existed, because most things can be debated, and there will be somebody who debates it.
This is all part of the game plan to just keep us debating and arguing and sort of chasing tails. And I guess it's really now sort of how you can try and think a bit more like Derek Bros, and what are actual solutions, and how do you sort of find another path for everyone, rather than just being on this path and sort of knowing that it's not the right thing. But easier said than done.
I do feel like people in the alternative media community, that's something that we have been focused a little more of late, is solutions. Because it's like, okay, well, we've been preaching this for a while now, people are starting to wake up, but what do we do next, right? Like, do we connect with people? I feel like more people are discovering how to be more independent from the grid and the system by growing. People are more intrigued with growing food, people are more intrigued with maybe having a home gym and exercising, like all these things of kind of being not so dependent on whatever system you want to refer to. And because a lot of this stuff was stuff that we've been talking about for a while, like Agenda 2030, all these things, eugenics, depopulation. But we always, I always felt like, okay, but no huge thing's going to happen in my lifetime where to take a huge quick step into that, to that finale. It's going to be baby steps. And now it's like, oh crap, like, I better start thinking about solutions. I better start thinking about how do I handle the next great psyop, because this could happen again. And I think many of us weren't prepared because we didn't see this coming down, down the way this quickly.
And what's the outlook like on the ground in the US, Ricky? Like, because you're coming into another winter now. So, and we're hearing obviously that, across Europe, there's more lockdowns because there's, new outbreaks and all this. And I guess we're seeing America is still the strong, independent, armed sort of nation. And I guess, is that what's happening over there? You're now working yourselves up into a frenzy about another winter of this, or do you think it's going to be, you guys are well and truly over it?
Well, I think Figs and Susan will tell you it counts where you are, right? Yeah. I mean, if you go to Florida, 2020 never happened. It's like they are, people are just enjoying life. And I've told my wife this, I'm like, I will get my American citizenship just to vote for DeSantis if he runs for president, just because like I love a guy who's like, hey, you want to mask kids? I'm going to cut funding. Oh, you want to, like, he has balls and he's willing to stand up for something he believes in. And I think this whole 2020 and 2021, it's really exposed the people who truly, truly believe in the things that they're preaching, or the ones who just said it, and the people who, I see people in music, in the alternative media, world where it's like, oh, well, I like talking about, being anti-establishment and all this stuff, but now that I'm afraid, I'm going to listen to them and I'm going to lock down and tell people to wear their masks. It's like, no, man, like if you truly believe, in the importance of our rights and our freedoms. And the other thing you said that's really fascinating is the arms thing, right? Like people still have guns here, and it's almost like countries that you take away their nuclear capability, they get invaded and they end up getting taken over. The US, it's almost like our guns is our nuclear capability, like, and the government will take over the country if we don't, defend ourselves or have a way of defending ourselves. So I do think that in the heart of America, America is always divided during election time, but now it's going to be divided forever. Like, because what's going to happen is like the blue states are going to get bluer, the red states are going to get redder, and it's going to be such a divide where, like, before people would talk about swing states, I don't even know if there's going to be a such thing after a while, because everybody's just going to migrate to Florida or migrate to Texas or somewhere else that is more red. And some of these other states, I think they're going to be the experiments, right? That's where the smart cities are going to start. That's where, because everybody there are going to be people who are going to comply. They're people who are all for this. They're the ones who are afraid. And I almost wonder if this division, like you've been saying, like divide and conquer, is a part of the plan. Like, get everybody out who might push back against these policies so we can implement these policies in these states and then slowly start implementing them everywhere else.
I would agree with that.
Phenomenon here. Oh, sorry. I was just going to make one comment very quickly, that a third political force has now popped up here and, has sort of claiming to now be, one of Australia's largest political parties based on the fact of the number of people that have actually registered and joined. Because again, we're a two system sort of landscape as well. So there's elections next year, and again, the leader of this party is a very, billionaire sort of guy, but they're saying all the right things, and surely this can't be that good and that true. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if next year we do suddenly see sort of a move from a pure two-party system into something that could potentially have a third party saying something very different. But I'm sure it's too good to be true. So thanks.
Yeah, no worries. I was just going to say it's he makes a good point in terms of division, because that's a huge thing right now is just dividing everyone, pushing all the dissidents out to one place. I definitely think that is part of part of their plan, so to speak. Everything now
Guys,
is all about division. Go ahead, Ron.
I just realized something, and this is fucking breaking news. I was looking at the climate summit when they're wrapping up, and they're saying that countries need to start collecting CO2 and like disappearing it from the atmosphere. And everybody that has been looking into that knows that CO2 makes it flourish. So now if everybody starts collecting CO2, so it doesn't go out in the atmosphere and circle the world, we will have a dry period and the climate change will fuck us up. So they're making it happen.
Yeah, that's
So
stuff's
yeah,
hilarious. I won't say what I do for work, but because I'll get in trouble. But yeah, implementing the crazy, well-marketed environmental plans is very complicated on the actual detail of doing it. I'm in a similar business to what you do, Ricky, and my company is very at the forefront of going net zero and stuff. And yeah, it's crazy what it actually means to the designing apartments and people's actually the effects on the ground. So it'll be fascinating to see how it rolls out.
Well, that is the next tool they're going to use to implement a lot of this stuff is climate change, and that's going to be the next thing, carbon and the carbon tax. And it's constantly the same techniques. It's like we're convincing you this is for the greater good, or this is what's best for you, and it's all for moral reasons, or giving up freedoms, or we're raping you of tax money or whatever. But it's all for the greater good. It's to help people. And maybe inherently some of these things aren't awful ideas, but they're going to be used in awful ways. And the idea of maybe less pollution, yeah, I mean, who can't get on board with that? But the people who are going to implement this and push this are going to use those policies to have more control, benefit more corporations, and usually it ends up hurting a lot. The stricter these policies get, these rules and regulations, it hurts the small businesses, because it's like, we have to compete with the big businesses that have the resources to do all these things. So I mean, imagine being like a up and coming car maker in California, which has like the craziest emissions laws. I mean, they talked, I forget where I heard this, that a 911 that's built for California has cleaner exhaust fumes than the air in California. So it's nuts because of the regulations there are so strict. So it's like, how does a small car company compete with that? You can't, because of I'm sure all the resources that goes to doing that. And in Massachusetts, they had this thing where they wanted us to put all these and I think it was platinum, because platinum, apparently, like platinum mufflers would just have cleaner exhaust fumes. And everybody who worked on a state job, all your machines had to have these platinum exhausts if they were older. Well, who has older machines? Smaller companies, right? So we had to do it, and it was like ridiculously expensive. And and it's like, what are we doing? Like, the military is the biggest polluter on earth. The military is, has I forget what percentage of pollution from the US comes from like the military. It's like some ridiculous percentage. It's the majority of it. And are they implementing anything that like slow down that? It's just, they pick and choose what they want to pick on. And there's always other reasons for it. There's because somebody who's making this new product to clean things up is going to profit. There's always something going on. And a lot of times you don't see it initially, but you'll see it eventually. I mean, when Schwab from the World Economic Forum is talking about climate change, and when Bill Gates is talking about climate change, people should be worried, because they don't give a crap about climate when they're traveling around in a private jet. They care about, using it as another way of controlling people. And really, I think that is going to be the next push, and that is going to be the next thing that we have to keep our eye out on, is this push for climate change. I mean, I think that's going to be a justification for smart cities. You're hearing people talk about that. It's like, oh, we'll have sensors everywhere and cameras everywhere. We can stop pollution. We can, all this stuff. It's like, dude, what a crazy world we are, tiptoeing into. And I wonder if, like, by the time people realize what the hell is going on, it might be too late.
Your army is a bigger pollutioner than 140 countries around the world combined.
That is crazy.
At least Abby Martin is saying that.
You're my red band. You're looking things up while
Yeah, I watch stuff every week, so when you say something, I'm trying to find the video. I have it here now, so I listened to it. Just 140.
It will be much better in Afghanistan this year.
One thing I think we don't that doesn't get spoken about enough is, every time you hear something about climate change on the media, I think it's important to differentiate the difference between climate change and pollution and like the eco issues that we have. When we talk about climate change, I don't really think that there's a whole lot of climate change issues. I think there is a lot of pollution, like for sure. There's definitely a lot of just trash, and we're definitely sort of destroying the ecosystem. I don't think that they differentiate that enough, because this, like you said, Ricky, they're talking a lot about climate change, and they push that climate change narrative to sort of implement more restrictions, more taxes, more controls, but they don't actually care about pollution. And there is actually I think there's a huge difference between the two. I really don't believe that the climate is quote unquote changing for the worse. I really don't believe that we're all going to burn up and die pretty soon. I absolutely agree that we are polluting our environment. There's trash everywhere. I do think that emissions is a problem, but I definitely don't think it's from us or our cars or cow farts. I mean, sure, our cars could run cleaner, but I think bigger problem, like you guys said, would be certain emissions, like maybe the ships that are all bringing everything over here from overseas, from China. Maybe it's all the airplanes that are constantly spraying shit in the atmosphere. I mean, I think those are a lot much bigger issues than cow farts or my car, just our gas engines. I really don't think that those are big contributors. I think that they use those as sort of mechanisms to sort of push their agenda. I think there's different reasons why they have a problem with cattle farming. I think there's different reasons why they have issues with us driving gas engines. It's because that's what we all use, and they want to push more restrictions on that, when the real problems are all the sort of industrial commercial applications that are polluting our environment. Though that, I think that's where the actual issues are, and you're never going to see that on the news. You're never going to see them push that stuff. I really don't think our cars are going to put a dent in the climate change aspect of that. But I think the thing that actually scares me more is everything that the planes and these huge tankers are putting out there. Talk about like all the trash and junk that gets put in the ocean. Wasn't there like some nuclear plant in Japan or something like that had just like exploded, and they were just dumping ocean water on it, and all this stuff was just spilling out into the ocean? Like, and then you look at like reefs all over the globe, they're all just like dying all over the place. Like, that is a huge problem. Yeah, exactly. And so I think there is a huge difference between climate change and pollution. I'm all for not polluting the environment and not trashing our environment anymore. I'm all for that. But this whole climate change narrative, I think it's absolute BS. The way that they're going about it is basically just to push more restrictions, more control, and more taxes, without a doubt. And the message that they spew is really just to guilt you into wanting to play along with their narrative, like, oh, everyone should have electric cars. Well, do you know how lithium batteries are manufactured? And if you look into the whole, like the way that we get those batteries, like how much pollution is that causing? And notice I made the differentiation right there. Pollution. I'm not talking about climate change, but pollution. Like what does it take to manufacture all those batteries? What does a lithium mine actually look like? If most people actually looked into that, I think they would really, really reconsider a lot of the shit that they're fed on the news. But that's just my take on it.
Well, that's
again,
go ahead.
Jumping head first and who's not. There's certain countries that are sort of running hard and fast and being really driven down this path, and then others where it's not even on the agenda. And I think that's, again, interesting.
Well, the electric car thing, right? Because that's the other thing. Like, we were sold the electric car because of pollution, right? It was supposed to be better for the environment, and then people started saying, well, the amount of work it takes to make a battery, get all the minerals, then dispose of a battery and all that other stuff, like, and you're still using, like, you're creating pollution in the factories that you're building these cars and a lot of these parts. Like, is it really better for the environment? So and I think that debate is still unresolved. So maybe it's not. Maybe that was also a bullshit lie. It wasn't about the environment or pollution or anything like that. It was about electric cars, usually more tech, is in it, more, control of the people driving it. Because you look at the Tesla cars, like Musk is really, really confusing, because in one interview he'll talk about the concerns of AI. The next interview he'll be talking about his new project that's developing AI, and I'm like, wait, I don't get it. Like, you understand the danger, but you're helping push us in that direction. So I'm really torn with him at times. I'm just like, I'm like, is he?
He's a Muppet.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm sold that he's I was a Elon fan once, but it's almost like one of those things that as time goes on, you really start to see their true colors. It's almost like you need them to sort of feed you more bullshit before they finally like, oh, that's bullshit, and I'm totally sold that Elon is definitely a Muppet. He's, like a lot of other people, they're going to say things that you like to hear just so that you'll sort of latch on and go along with what they say. But, they're definitely doing other shit. They're saying one thing and doing another. That's how I see Musk now.
Yeah, and he's working the Twitter for his own gain so much. It's disgusting. Now the last thing when he was, should I sell my stocks or not? And people says yes, and he would done it anyway because he had to, because they are coming for his taxes. So it's just doing public PR, so the taxes won't go. The stocks won't take too big a hit when he have to sell some to pay some stuff off, and it's just PR.
He does run kind of like a pyramid scheme. I don't know if you guys listened to the episode I did with Matt Farah some time ago, but Matt Farah talked about the book about Elon Musk called Ludicrous, and it's about how his business practice is, we convince you to buy this product that we actually don't have yet, and we get all these people that pre-order it, and then we develop it after we get all your money and tell you we were promising you this product that we actually haven't built yet, and then he'll use that money to fund the last project that he's still in the process of building that people already paid for. Like, it seems like a little bit of a pyramid scheme. And so, yeah, he's an interesting character. He also exposed how BS the stock market is. I mean, some people would always talk about, like, well, what gives Bitcoin value? I'm like, the fact that I want some, and the fact that I use it. I'm like, what gives anything value, right? I'm like, what makes a 69 Camaro more valuable than a 59 Camaro or a 79 Camaro? It's because everybody wants a 69 Camaro, so it's like Elon Musk exposes that one tweet can blow up the value of something or diminish the value of something, all based on what? On, like, just a tweet. So it's like, it's all kind of made up and easily manipulated. There's not really a science behind it. You know, in my opinion, I think it's a great tool for people who have money. You know, people who have money can make money with stock market. Everybody else is just screwed. You put your money in the bank. I mean, my mom's so old school. She still does like bank CDs. You know, she's like, oh, I made a little bit of money. I'm like, Mom, they loaned that shit out at like 10 times more interest. They took your money, which was guaranteed, and they gave you some pennies on the dollar for, and then loan that money out to somebody else. And so I'm like, they're just making money off your money. And it's like, she's like, oh, but she's like, well, it is one of those things where just like most old school people who came from very little are always afraid of losing their money and being poor again. So she doesn't want to invest in the stock market because she doesn't know how it works. And if she puts any money in the stock market and it goes down just slightly, she starts panicking. And, I'm like, well, that's what they want. They want people like you who pull out when it's low, instead of buying when it's low. But
is his strategic plan also like putting the Starlink things in the sky and 5G the planet, or am I confused with people? Is that what he runs SpaceX and everything as well? Has that been a source of a lot of his wealth?
That's Elon, yeah, Starlink.
Yeah,
he owns that.
So I guess I see that being something I don't know much about, but it seems like that might carry value, if he's also capable of doing that. And it was a media talking point here for a while, but I haven't heard anything about that for ages.
He's doing good and bad things. The last good thing I saw when some organization that's working for the poor supposedly told him if Elon would sell 6% or something of his taxes, they would save the world from hunger. And he was like, yeah, we will do that, but I need the receipt where you put the money. And I was like, yeah, maybe not. So that was a good one.
Yeah, that pyramid scheme you're talking about, Ricky, it's very much a trend right now, and I see that happening kind of a lot. I mean, look at what just happened with Truth Social and Trump's new social media app and Digital World Acquisition. The app's not even available yet. All of a sudden you see advertisements for Truth Social, and look at what happened to Digital World Acquisition stock. It went soaring. You can't even get the app now. So yeah, you're 100% right with that whole pyramid scheme. It's just like they found ways to get people's money before they even have the product to put it out. You can't even get the app now, and look what happened to the stock. Everyone, all these super Trumpers were just like, hell yeah, I'll throw my money at it. I know a bunch of people that invested in DWAC, and look what happened. It literally the stock went soaring, like the same day they started just putting out advertisements about it, and it just skyrocketed. Nobody can even download it now. You can't, it's not even available yet. So that's 100% a trend. A lot of the world's millionaires, billionaires are doing that a lot right now. You can see that all over the place if you look at other applications of the same thing.
And about Trump, so Breaking Point have been doing a good job following his money he gets from the rallies and how he uses the money, and he's taking almost everything for himself. So
oh yeah, for sure.
Well, no, I don't think that's true, because I went to Trump University and I met Trump, the cardboard Trump. And do you guys remember that story? He had a Trump University, and then all the kids, like, that's what they got. They got the cardboard Trump. They had a cardboard cutout. Then, like, he never even went there and actually got that was pretty funny. He definitely is not a perfect option by any stretch, or not even a really good one. He's just, I think a lot of people who are Trump supporters on a lot of these issues are on the same side as us. And when I went to rallies or protests, it was if they're wearing a MAGA hat or not, if they're we're holding up a sign that says, hey, like, my body, my choice, or anti the mandates or lockdowns, I'm like, you know what, for these issues we're on the same team, and I'm okay with that.
Oh, for sure.
The problem is not the voter, it's the person they're voting for, as always when it comes to those matters.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah. And the thing is, like, there's plenty of issues with him. I mean, in regards to fast tracking the vaccine. And, some people I've heard people who are Trump supporters make the argument that the reason why he was pushing for it was because he felt like if he got that vaccine out before election time, that maybe that would have, guaranteed him being reelected. I mean, he is which kind of makes sense to me a little bit, just because he is the only politician that I know of that has run for presidency who openly has questioned vaccines. He did it during a debate when he was running the first time. And, to me, that was like huge for somebody who's been in this world for a long time. I'm like, to hear a national debate, everybody's watching, and a guy who could possibly who became the next president openly saying, like, hey, I know a lot of parents that said that their kids had adverse reactions. Maybe we're giving too many vaccines. Maybe, just planting that seed of doubt and just asking those questions, to me, was awesome, But and then when you look like Israel, for example, the way he's handled the wars, yeah, he didn't start any new wars, he didn't end any old ones. So it's like, that's a critique, of course, and just how friendly he was with Israel and all these, he's just, again, like, he's not. I don't know if anybody could even come close to being in that position and not have some major flaws.
I'm torn between James Corbett's Hopium video and then the guy that sort of, made us aware of all the other treatments, which you'd think you'd have to be insane to do, knowing what we know about other leaders and things like that. But yeah, I was a massive Trump guy down here, and I guess at the end of the day, I sort of, I'm stuck watching that James Corbett video as my last one. But at the end of the day, he was something different to everything else. And I guess the only sort of concern we have here in Australia, because we see ourselves as being a mini, US in many ways, is whether the integrity is there for your next, elections, or if everyone's become so bemused by the whole thing that, your next one will be an interesting one yet again to work out if it's actually a true result.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about Trump that's so fascinating, is that he definitely did some things that I'm not sure any other president would have done. Like, openly said, hey, everybody keeps saying hydroxychloroquine doesn't work. How about this? I'm on it. I've taken it. Like, that was pretty ballsy, I must say. Like, just openly saying it. And then same thing with, like, the fake news, like, everybody plays the game, right? Everybody plays the game during these press conferences. Like, okay, oh, that guy's right wing, he works for a right wing publication, so he's going to give me a hard question. Or that guy's left wing publication is going to give me a hard time. And you kind of just try to give him the answer that doesn't get you in too much trouble. And everybody, but to just come out and say, hey, this is all fucking theater. Like, this is, your fake news, like, I kind of got what he was trying to do. It's like, I'm not going to play this game, and I'm going to let everybody know that I know that they're in here with the agenda to make me look bad, and I'm just going to call them out for it, instead of trying to give them the answer where they can't really bash me too much, So I think they're, in that aspect, he absolutely did some things. I mean, everybody knew the media was BS before. I think a lot more people realized it afterwards, because it was so obvious how biased people were, and it was so obvious how much people hated Trump, that they were going over and beyond to really, not even hide it anymore.
And the rest of these Republicans, I mean, the 13 that have signed off on this latest, spending bill. And again, I'm just getting my little bits and pieces down here, not the full story by any means, but it just seems like, again, this is my dilemma with our situation, with only having two sides to sort of choose, is sort of what's the difference these days. But again, he's sort of unique as an individual, but it's more just a question around the whole integrity of the whole framework. I think everyone's amused.
Yeah, I'm also starting to lean more to a thing that I think everybody should say it at least once every day. You don't know the things you don't know. And he might not be corrupt. He just is a businessman. He's doing stuff that makes him money, and also making money, he tries to do some good things. So when people ask, why didn't he kick that guy, he has not been in that situation. He doesn't know. Maybe he knows like 10% of the swamp, so to say, but he doesn't know every figure that has been doing that for 40 years and how deep they are entrenched in stuff, because Tim Pool had Cash Patel on, and he was the DOJ or DOD guy that made the plan for the Afghan retrieval. And he gave that to the Bidens, and they was like, fuck you, we don't want anything Trump made. And he was like, call it whatever you want, it's going to work. And they dismantled it, and we have the result. So he had at least one good guy, and then he had a few bad guys. So I don't know if I would go get into the office today. I'm a conspiracy nut, so I would not trust anyone. I would take in everything new. I would have Ricky, you guys, Corbett, everybody I know that doesn't do this shit. And that's what Trump needs to do if he goes in another time. You start from scratch, 0 old farts and just new people, and try it that way.
Well,
if he's legit.
it won't happen though, because they, that was the thing, is like there's you have to appoint so many people, and people are like, oh, like I don't think he knew who the hell Dr. Fauci was before he appointed him. He didn't know anything about his history. He was told that, oh, this is head of National Institute of Health, he's been around medicine forever, he's the best guy for the job. And you're like, okay, his resume looks good, and you hired him, and and I think that in many cases that was it. That maybe it was the fact that he was so deep into the business world that he just didn't really pay that much attention to the political world, and really they didn't want him there either. That's the thing. I do see the argument that he wasn't a politician, or he isn't a politician, because he's one of the few.
And who on this call can say they did know Fauci before? Did you know Fauci before 2016? Who the fuck this guy is?
I knew his name. Like I remember when he started getting on the TV, I'm like, I know I've run into his name somewhere, but I didn't know, like, if somebody said, like, what is he famous for? What's his history? I wouldn't know anything. I'd be like, okay, and so it was fast. I mean, Bill Gates was kind of the same thing with when Corbett did the documentary on him. I'm like, I thought I knew a lot about Bill Gates, and then I'm like, holy shit, like this guy is pulling way more strings than I even, thought. And he is way deeper. And I mean, he's almost like one of the biggest threats. People always say, like, the people who are really pulling the strings, you don't know their names. I think sometimes that's the case, but he might be one of those people that's really pulling the strings and you do know his name, because he has his hand everywhere. You go on the Moderna website, and I think front page, it talks about the partnership with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Like, how much more obvious is that? I mean, isn't MSNBC still, owned by like Microsoft, right? Isn't that what the M is for? Microsoft. I mean, it's like he's everywhere. He's the octopus, and he has tentacles everywhere. It's insane, and he's talking about health while his pudgy ass is looking like, he never exercised a day in his life, and it's like, what do you know? Why are we listening to you? And then you're telling Joe Rogan, who's like a black belt and legit, ass kicking athlete, oh, well, no, you don't take health advice from him, but let's listen to, Bill Gates. I'm like, are you serious? Like, it boggles.
And he's supposedly using Epstein to get influence, like he doesn't have influence. That motherfucker doesn't need someone to make a call for him. Like, he need Epstein to make calls. Yeah, fuck you.
I was just going to say, my final thing about Trump is, I think, where he gets some more balance is that, he's got, I guess, a family structure and a lifestyle outlook that's still more aligned with, the average person. And, I follow Donald Jr. and all that, and, what he's up to on an average weekend is more sort of what we would be doing. So hopefully at the end of the day, there's still a human element where you've got to sort of look after all those people, and not just Trump, just talking generally. But I see him sort of, always having one foot in our camp and one foot in theirs. But hopefully it lands in the right spot. But I've got to jump off. But good to see you guys. And it was a good time to jump on this morning. So I thought I'd better say good day.
Hey, thank you. Hey, enjoy sunny Australia.
I will, but keep up the good work.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, buddy. Ciao.
Take care.
Bye.
Ciao.
Later.
Thanks, everybody. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks.
You too.
Thanks.
For joining us.
Thanks.